Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of our Velocity Sellers podcast. I am your host, Velocity Pete, and today I am joined by an organic sales specialist, Dan Deighton, who works for Ford Baker. Dan, thank you so much for joining us today to talk more about seemingly a unexplored area, a topic that most people would say would maybe leave to the wayside, would think is important, but not really dive as deep as I believe you have. So I'm really excited to get into this today and learn more about organic sales that make up the majority of the sales that you get on Amazon. So it makes sense that someone would want to focus on this and help improve it. I'm excited to pick your brain today and learn more about how we can all increase our organic sales.
Fantastic. Thanks for having me on, Pete, and thanks for that wonderful introduction.
Yeah, of course. I'm excited to let you do a little bit of your own introduction as well as to the audience. I want to learn how, I want to give them the chance to learn about how you got into this and kind of how this has become your passion and your line of work. What made you think that, again, organic sales was something that was not important because obviously it's, of course, it's important, but what made you get into this specific area?
Well, I think like all good things, you often end up stumbling into and finding your passion. So my background actually is nothing to do with marketing or Amazon at all. I actually went to college, as you guys would say in the States, university.
University, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I studied law, law and Spanish. And I assumed really that that was going to be my career, and I was going to go into law, and then I was going to climb the law ladders and all that. But I stumbled across Amazon. I think it was a Helium 10 freedom ticket. Have you heard of that?
Yes. Yeah, those are good.
Bradley Sutton is incredible, and I loved it. I absolutely loved the whole idea of it. So I started my own brand. I was selling women's sports clothing online, and I was just doing it, and it was so complex, but I loved it so much that eventually I contacted Ford Baker, who I work for now, and I'm here, speaking on behalf of today. And I joined as an SEO specialist, which really is like the foundations of organic growth. And well, the rest is history. About 4 years later.
Here we are. And now here you are on a podcast talking about it. So it was meant to be. I definitely appreciate the stumbling into things reference. I think that's how I got this job, quite honestly. Like I said, I feel like this is a topic that I don't see a lot of people specifically saying, I am an organic growth specialist. So again, I'm very curious to learn more about not only what that means for in your terms, but also just how you specialize in growing organic sales.
Yeah, well, it is quite niche. Yes, it is very niche. And I suppose if I wanted to go really, really far with this, I would say I'd like to consider myself the antidote to toxic PPC culture. That's going really far with it, but there is a lot of misinformation on Amazon and in the Amazon community about how important PPC is. It's so important. You
Right.
can't be on Amazon without PPC. I don't want to make that point. It's such a skill in itself, and I couldn't even go there. I respect so much the specialists in their own right. But really, why would you pay for every sale if you don't have to? And that's where I come in. So I see with a PPC sale, you just have to open a campaign, and you might get your first sale from it. Well, eventually you will after spending lots of money. But organic is the result of continuously performing over time and showing to Amazon that you're relevant over an extended period of time, which for me, that's a great skill. And it shows Amazon trusts you, but you have to build that trust. And that's really the foundation of my job role.
Right. And I would definitely want to get into that. I want to get into a lot of the algorithm and kind of how, it's a great way to put it, how you appear in Amazon's view, how they choose to rank you and how they choose to grow you and how they choose to move you up on the ladder. I like that quote, I'm the cure for the toxic PPC culture. Might have to use that in our thumbnail. That was very good. I mean, they definitely got a good laugh out of me. I'm sure a lot of people as well watching. But yeah, no, it definitely is a great place to start. I think would be just the basics. Give us some of the key components for a successful, maybe the basic stuff where you start looking when you see a listing? What are some of the basic components to a successful organic sales strategy on Amazon?
Yeah, great. So, just simplifying Amazon's organic rank algorithm, because there are four key factors. There's SEO, there's your price, there's your inventory, and then your sales velocity. So, of those four, I would alter or change or make changes to the SEO and things that affect the sales velocity. So, from an SEO perspective, it's really simple. On Amazon, particularly with the latest Amazon title requirement, you have to be exactly as you are in your title. You can't be anything else. And I think that's changed a lot recently. In the past, I think you used to be able to stuff a load of keywords in your title, and get away with it. But now Amazon has said no, like this is so important. So the first thing I'll do is, does your listing say it is what it is? And that's a great place to start. And then if it's saying that, how can we increase your sales velocity? So does the listing have all of the key elements of it? Does it have 5 bullet points? Does it have a brand module? Does it have premium A plus? And that's really a tick box exercise. And in order to really go to a next level with that is, am I using best practice marketing principles that have stood the test of time, not hacky things to get people to buy,
Right.
like things like essential sales persuasion techniques, like comparison to other brands, for example, that will convince people to buy. And that's essentially where I come in.
Yeah. No, like I said, it's very interesting to hear this because it's something you obviously have to do. This is not something that is optional. You have to have bullet points. You have to have the title. You have to have good images. You have to have just good overall SEO if you want to succeed. But I'm really excited to dive deep with you and kind of look at some maybe some high level strategies that you can share with us, to or even low level strategies, on what makes a good listing better than or what makes a good listing from a great one. What really helps you rank really well in the A9 algorithm, and also definitely want to get into Rufus. I know that's a big sort
Yeah,
of, I don't want to say a big unknown, but he's a very or he what it is a very interesting, now that see that's how they start taking over the world. They start being called he, she. They get the human interaction there, the AI stuff. We're gonna have a little Terminator here soon. But anyway, I'm excited to get into to Rufus and again how it can affect your ranking and really where you should maybe even be optimizing specifically for Rufus. Um,
100%.
but yeah, no. Before we get into that too, I do want to talk about this again. Just going into the beginnings of what do you look at keywords and listings, and I mean this might seem like a basic question, but how important is keyword research for organic rankings, and what methods or tools do you recommend to maybe help improve that stuff?
So I spent about my first 2 years of my career looking up and researching keywords in English, in Spanish, in French, in lots of different languages. And um, I would generally use Helium 10's Cerebro tools or Magnet to do that. And the reason I think it's so important to be doing it specifically to Amazon's search um, volumes and the way people are searching on there is that we often get brands come to us and say, hey, just use the keywords we're using on our website. But people search in different ways on different marketplaces and in different platforms. The sense will always be the same, but if the volume's not there, the volume's not there. So you have to meet the customers where the customers are at. And so yeah, for many years I'd do that. And then that responsibility has gone to someone else who's brilliant at it. He's much more data intensive than me within the team, Ivan. And now I look for ways to really, well, make the most of that organic keyword research. And so something recently that really has developed is the use of main image. And this in some way comes into Rufus, but we'll touch Rufus later for sure. But really, in recent years, Amazon has relaxed the main image requirement significantly, which has been quite a big surprise because they're very
Right.
quiet about it. They don't really tell you that they're doing it.
They
You
don't say,
kind of
"Hey,
see other
we're"
people getting away.
right. They're like, "We can't really stop you from doing this, so we're just gonna kind of let you do it, I guess. You can't beat him, join him," kind of thing. Yeah.
Exactly, and I think it's really interesting because it's such a big change
Right.
from previously it used to be white background, 85%
Yep.
of it. But now they're like, well, sort of play around and we'll take you down if we don't like it, and
Right.
we'll let you get away with it if we do.
Mhm.
And really, that's part of Amazon trying to optimize its platform for brands and to attract brands. Where in the past, like we spoke a little bit already about keywords, used to be able to do a bit of a you could manipulate the algorithm with keyword usage. Now Amazon's saying, no, we want brands to come on, and image is a huge part of brands being able to stand out in the search engine results pages.
Right. And being able to share their brand voice in the way that they want to. You some people don't want that just plain white image. They're a little bit more dynamic. There's some brands that are a little bit more out there, a little more eccentric. They want to be able to. The best example I always see of this is I think it's Honest Tea. They've always got like a lemon and a mint leaf overlapping of the bottle on the product. And for those out there that may not know what we're talking about, Amazon used to require you just have the product on a white background. There's some other requirements there, but it was only the product. It couldn't be any add-ons. It couldn't be anything that said 3-pack or 2-pack or any like bubbles that had the size on there. And you're right, they've relaxed quite a bit. It's very interesting, but it's nice to see that they have because obviously, and Dan, you can agree or disagree with me, those are elements that greatly increase your sales traffic. I think anyway, I'm much more inclined to buy a product that's got one main image like that with something showing the more about the product or giving me a bigger size reading than something without. So
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, it makes sense, doesn't it? From an Amazon perspective, yeah, okay, we want brands to come onto the platform. Brands know that an increased click-through rate from a main image or the first image, it's probably called on their website, is likely to get more customers onto the listing. So we're going to have to relax these requirements. And I think that's a whole school of thought on it. The big is very big in the LinkedIn community, but one of those things you mentioned there, just about the 2-pack and 3-pack, that visual text overlay that you mentioned, like across a banner across the image like that, that is part of Rufus scans images. If you include that in your main image, say that's a useful identification element for your customers, Rufus is going to reward you with that.
let's get into Rufus now because I am itching to actually talk about it. I keep wanting to call it him, and the reason I'll tell you. Do you know why I want to call it him? Have you heard the story about why it's called Rufus? Do you know
No,
why?
I haven't at all
I
actually.
love sharing this story. I've shared it. Darab's probably sick of this. He's heard it a million times. Our producer, Darab. Rufus was the name of an office dog, a corgi, in back in the day when Amazon had I think it was maybe either the late I think it was I had to have been late 2000, maybe early 2010s. And Rufus was this office dog. He was super cute. And whenever they would launch a new product, they would actually bring Rufus into where I guess the big computer was that they were going to launch it, and they would have him take his paw and click like launch new service or launch new
Mm.
software. It was very cool. That's why I want to call it him because it was actually Rufus was an actual dog that lived in the Amazon office. Um, so
Once you see it, you can't get it out of your head.
right, exactly. I just see the dog. I see that that's why the face. If you look at Rufus's sort of icon, it's almost like a corgi. It's like a dog face. Um, it's very neat. It's very neat story. But yeah, that's why I want to keep calling it him. But anyway, so
I
on
love that. No,
Rufus,
I
yeah,
love that, and I love corgis. So
big
yeah,
fan as
that
well.
story. I'll
Big
be
fan as
sharing the
well.
message.
Yes, spread that around. um, but on Rufus specifically, what are your strategies now for again adapting to this new AI tool? You already mentioned one. Of course, it scans images. Of course, it's going to be reading as much information as it can about your product and then sharing that with the customer that is asking Rufus a question. How do you optimize for that? What are your strategies to make sure that your products are showing up on the question that a customer is asking?
Well, I think there's two main things really. Um, the first one I'd say is working with brands. Brands expect to be doing this already. Like they'll be selling on another marketplace. And so, really, what Rufus is doing is bringing the standard up of listings for the customers. So really your listing already should be using and describing the materials and benefits of your product. It should be showing the product being used in different use cases in different environments. It should be showing if there's a benefit to it. For example, like I don't know, if you're a shampoo and it's for certain types of hair, you should be making that very clear already in your content. So what Rufus is doing, really, in terms of who I work for as a brand and our content team, it hasn't changed very much other than that main image requirement and probably, and I think this is one change that we're really looking into is attributes in the back end of a listing. How can you fill all of those recommended ones as well as the mandatory ones? So really, that's probably the biggest change that we're working on. But in terms of the listings itself, we should have already been operating at that standard because we work for brands and the standard's very high.
Right. I can't tell you how many people I audit that come in to get an analysis from us. They don't have those. It's such an easy thing to fill in, but I see at the top of their Seller Central, like, oh, recommended, fill in these rest of these attributes that are just so simple. And then obviously, of course, Rufus is scanning the entire listing, so it's looking at every information, every piece of information on, your back end, your front end. And trying to give, again, the best answer possible to these customers that are looking for a specific type of product. Like you mentioned, maybe someone's got a specific type of hair and they're looking for a very niche shampoo that does this, that, or the other thing. And if you don't have that information on there, you're not going to show up. So, and you're right, this is something that people are getting rewarded for already having this filled out and this established, this level of quality, like you said.
Yeah, and I think really just speaking out loud, how if you've got a very high sales velocity ASIN, you should probably be reading your customer reviews very regularly in case that changes or customers surprise you with a new use case or benefit. You should be reading that. And there's that lovely AI summary at the bottom of a listing, at the bottom of the listing that summarizes the main features of the reviews. And I think checking that regularly and making sure there are any new ones or evolving ones, and then adding them back into your listing is probably the way the way you should be approaching it.
That's interesting you bring up reviews, and I don't want to get too far off of Rufus because I do want to ask maybe a little more about him, but did it again. Uh, Reviews, I didn't think were, and of course, they're obviously very, very important. Reviews are a huge part of your success on Amazon. How do they and do they really factor into your ranking? Do they factor into your um, organic success at all? Aside from, of course, people see maybe a bad review and they like, oh, I'm not going to click on this, or I'm not going to. They see you have like a 3 point, anything a three. They're not going to click on your listing. But do the reviews themselves have any impact on where you rank, maybe on the keywords or in the search results?
Yes, it does significantly. So internally, Amazon had or used to have something called the item and data quality scorecard, and reviews were a huge part of that. And I think it was something like they give you a different score out of 100 up to from 4.3, and there's 4.5, and I think there's 4.7. So Amazon is very, very focused on your reviews, and it is something that goes into my line of work. I believe that star rating is a huge part of that. And one way in which we try to optimize for that is by using a brand's full portfolio. So merging child ASINs into a parent variation because they then share the reviews and the star rating count.
Hmm.
And that's one way that you can address that. But realistically, the higher your star rating and after a certain point, your review count, yeah, I think it's huge, not just for the Amazon algorithm, but for customers.
And then I guess a sort of a follow up, sort of a question on that is, how would you recommend someone looking to increase their organic sales? How would you recommend them to handle maybe some negative reviews? Because they're of course going to come in. I don't know about you, but I've seen some really ridiculous reviews on the platform for some products. Do you have any advice to people on how they should be handling when they do get a negative review? How they can maybe pivot or how they can not let that affect their organic sales too much?
Yeah, there's probably two ways. I would first I'd look at your portfolio and see if you have any similar products that you could merge with that child to bring up the star rating
Hmm.
a little bit. And then in place with, or instead of just doing that, I think you've got to counter the reviews, those negative reviews in some way in the listing. And so let's say a customer was like just using this product mistakenly, like it was for people with brown hair instead of blonde hair. Customer, this doesn't work, blah 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 blah. And then you read the review a bit further, and it goes, oh, they had the wrong hair type.
Right.
So then in your listing, you should really be in the title. It should say this is for this color hair types. And then in your listing, make that very clear. Don't show any of the wrong hair types. Make it very clear, counter it basically, counter that negative review. So that customers, when they see that, they then go back up to a list and they say, hang on, no, that's an old review. And I think customers generally are pretty forgiving if you if you can
Yeah.
yeah, counter it. I'd like to think, there's room to make mistakes in the world. Obviously, for a while, you may have to do a promotion or a discount to get more people in buying what is the new marketed product, newly marketed. But overall, yeah, counter it or merge with another ASIN.
Love it. Yeah, no, I like I said, I've seen some crazy reviews, and makes me wonder sometimes how people, I don't want to say dig themselves out of the hole, but how they get back to a more respectable level. But yeah, I definitely agree with the merging of products. I know there's a nice little tip, nice little secret. If you're launching a new product and it's got variations, you separate them all, you send them all into Vine, you get 30 reviews for each ASIN, and then you merge them back together. And let's say you've got 4 variations. Now all of a sudden you've got 120 reviews right off the bat. So stuff like that is definitely, I think, very nice to not cheat the system, but maybe use your resources, use kind of what they're giving you to really make it hit the ground running. So
Yeah, yeah, they're a
yeah,
currency.
yeah,
Reviews and
exactly.
star rating is a currency
Yeah,
on Amazon.
absolutely. No, and I do want to go back a little bit to A9, and we talked a little bit about Rufus, and I do want to hear your maybe some expert opinions, some low level thoughts on the A9 algorithm itself, and kind of how, uh, like I mentioned, how you can kind of game the system a little bit. What are some strategies? What are some tips that you have to go into a listing and say, looking at it and say, all right, this is exactly how we're going to rank on this keyword. This is exactly how we're going to build this up, and all doing it again very organically.
Yeah, so keywords is not gonna be enough. And so as we touched on already, it's no longer just about keywords. It's about how do you stand out in the search engine results pages. It's because it's so noisy. It's so
Very,
noisy now.
yep.
Like I think the top 7 spots are all PPC or sponsored. And so you've got to be optimizing for those organic spots. So I think the first thing, which is a newer thing, is the main image. But also what stands out in search engine results pages is promotions. So are you offering a promotion with the rest of your product range? If you're working with brands, you've got a complementary or supplementary product range. Put buy two, save 5% in there, and it shows up in the search engine results pages. People love a bargain. And that's one way to increase your sales velocity. If you're a subscribable product, enroll in subscribe and save. That also shows up in the search engine results pages. And obviously, we've spoken about review score and star rating. Can I use my catalog to maximize that? And then also one thing recently that is huge, and it comes in with Amazon's sort of climate pledge friendly initiative, is can I get any badges that Amazon has is voluntary to apply for, but you
Right.
may already have anyway. So climate pledge friendly. There was a study done by, I really forgot their name, but we should definitely mention them after, over an 18-month period. And ASINs in the US that had a climate pledge friendly icon that also shows up in the SERPs increased at a monthly rate 8.4% their sales,
Wow.
which is like, wow, people
Good.
are climate pledge friendly.
That's
Customers want to
nice.
save the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah, that's nice to see, nice to hear. Um, I think I saw something similar. I think I saw something around 10% in 2024, up from 2023 of climate. People uh, with that badge again grew their sales 10% around that number. So yeah, that's a And you think about that, that's might seem like a small number, right? If you're only doing, a small number, but people are doing millions a month to have a nice 8% increase, 10% increase. Yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that any day of the week.
You'd
Uh,
bite the hand off, wouldn't you?
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Same thing for I'm sure there are other badges too. That obviously is a big increase and a nice one, but I'm sure a lot of these other badges, right, too, are also, like I said, easy to apply for. Sometimes they're most of the time they're free, as long as you qualify. So definitely worth looking into. I always get that recommendation of, are you, what kind of business are you guys? Do you have this? Can you qualify for this badge? All that kind of good stuff. Yeah, it's very interesting to hear from you again that there is a big increase on that side as well.
Yeah, I think here's a prediction for you. So that a while back they made the made in Italy badge, but they haven't rolled that out. Well, I haven't. I'd need to double check this, but they haven't rolled out to the rest of the countries or the rest of the marketplaces. There are so many US listings that in the main image they have made in USA, and if they made a made in USA, icon, it would massively increase their sales. So Amazon, if you're listening, make a made in USA badge because I think people are really asking would really respond to that.
Yeah, and you're right. Now that you mention that, there are, that's always whenever we see like a that's a big selling point of a lot of products. And I'm, as someone that likes to buy made in America products, um, I could see that being very huge for people like me that say, okay, I see this on the search results page, along with if a product is made in America and climate pledge friendly, more than likely I will buy that. I don't care what it is. It's like if I see that just randomly looking one day, like, oh, I don't really need that, but I like what they support. I think a lot of people think that way as well. And you're right, it's a huge, huge part of a lot of content already. And I have been told that Amazon does listen to these, so you might have a voice there to reach out to them and kind of get the idea in their heads. I'm sure they're hopefully already thinking about that. I hope that's. I'd be shocked if that was an original idea from us today, but yeah, no, that would be very interesting to see the growth and the metric, to measure the metrics on that if that came out, and take even like a month or like a quarter and see how much you grow. Um, they're very interesting. But yeah, these badges are important. These badges are definitely, I would think, very, they help tell your story. They help tell your brand voice. They help share what your brand is about, and helps relate to your customer better so that they convert better. So a little bit on that as well, as far as, the 10% increase and just scaling and growing. Um, what advice do you have for maybe somebody, let's say somebody's just starting out today, like they listen to this podcast, tomorrow they're going to go and open an Amazon account. What advice do you have for them on as far as hitting the ground running with good organic strategy?
Uh, just well,
It's a loaded question.
form a brand. Like don't don't do a single ASIN. I think, yeah, try and think about what kind of brand are you. Like Amazon is so set up now for brands who have a story to tell their customers over the course of that of that customer journey. So they've clicked through to your listing because you've got a fantastic main image. And then they go through your image gallery, they scroll down, they see your brand module. Oh, you've been around since blah, 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 or you got into selling this product because of this, some kind of owner's story. And then you expand on that in the Premium Made Plus and hopefully get that conversion. So I wouldn't look at it as some kind of, what's it called? Side hustle. I think you'd have to see it as a very serious and take it very seriously.
Yeah.
Get to know that Amazon is for brands and have a brand strategy. So if you're going to release your first product, fine, but there's going to have to be a second and a third and a fourth. And yes, and also, yeah, have some money. That would be helpful. And
Some capital. Yeah.
and yeah, I think I would hire, a professional. I would look at agencies. Obviously, I can't do it. Plug my own agency for Baker, but it's going to cost you a lot of money to do things wrong. And having been a brand owner myself in the past, and I paid some astronomical PPC costs when I first set up because I didn't know what I was doing. Um, I would recommend, yeah, talking to an agency or talking to the experts. There's some wonderful people on LinkedIn that are so friendly. Don't go in blind. And you're going to have to do your keyword research. You're going to have very, very good imagery. And then you're going to have to, use PPC to reach more customers.
Right. Great advice. I love it. I feel like I'm inspired. I feel like I need to go start my own brand now. I feel like I should anyway, just because we work with Amazon. We do all this stuff. Maybe that would be hard with the two full-time jobs, like you said. Um, but it is important that it's not 20. I would say what, like 20, maybe 15 anymore. It's not the wild wild west. There's tried and true formulas out there that people know that work. Like I said, there's plenty of friendly people on LinkedIn. Plenty of professionals out there that are in business because they know how to do this. So yeah, great advice. I love it. I have a question I like to always ask to my guests for you that I love. This is one of my favorite questions to ask. So we talked a little bit about your predictions for maybe either this year or in the future, adding that Made in America badge, and some other predictions. But what are some trends or maybe some innovations that could be coming that you think will influence organic sales on Amazon this year and in the coming years?
A couple of ways. So for a long time already, uh, it's been known to be a big optimization factor if you're sending external traffic to your Amazon listing. The reason for that is because if there's a saturation to which people are on that marketplace on Amazon. If you're sending people from other marketplaces or other social media sites, Amazon is going to be very grateful to you for doing that because you're sending them more traffic
Right.
basically, and then they get more sales from people checking out, etc. So I think the way it's going to evolve is I think Amazon is going to become even more of a fulfillment method for brands on other marketplaces and other websites because Amazon's fulfillment method unprecedented, it's unrivaled. Like
Yeah. They're the
in the
king.
US, I know it's a little bit different, but in the UK, we can get the product the same day. If you wake up and order the product early enough in the day, it will arrive to you by 10 p.m. And so what we're seeing is that maybe fulfilling your products on another website through Amazon, using the Buy with Prime rollout feature, which has happened recently. You can show the product as a Prime,
Right.
and use your Amazon listing to check out on another website. So say you've got a Shopify, you've got a Walmart, etc. Yeah, we're seeing, and with our brands, that's becoming more and more of a thing, particularly with more niche marketplaces.
Yeah, and then that buy with Prime is a great boost to. I'm gonna plug some Amazon services. That buy with Prime is a great boost to your own website's traffic. I know they rolled it out with Facebook. They rolled out where you can just check out right there on a Facebook ad, or sorry, a Meta ad, right there on the ad that you're seeing on either Instagram or Facebook. It's very interesting how you're right. I mean, they are the king of distribution. We do have that same day delivery in the U.S. I think it's really mostly for major cities. So
Major
like
cities.
I live in Dallas, Texas, and so I can order something like you said. I can order something early enough in the day, and they'll say here's same day delivery. Or even if I order it sometimes a little later, they'll charge me a fee, but they can get it to me the same day. Um, their distribution. I always see Amazon trucks going by. I mean, the little small ones. I started seeing some electric ones now, which is pretty cool. I wonder if they're working with either Rivian or Tesla on them. Um, but in any case, yes, the distribution is unmatched, and I think I did forget to touch on the attribution links, which I think are very very important. They made that very important last year. Of saying drive us as much external traffic as you can. We could get into all this stuff about TikTok and how, TikTok might still be banned. I don't know. It was banned for what, like 3 hours, I think. I had a lot of friends that were freaking out about that in the U.S. They banned it for a good couple of hours, and then it came back. But we'll see. Maybe they're working on integrations with them. I know that's a huge market right now. So it'd be interesting to see again. Like you're right. I'm interested to see how things move forward this year and the following years.
Yeah, no, I think, you know, if we touch on AI, we've touched on Rufus, we've touched on AI, and you've just mentioned TikTok Shop. I think, in the world of creators, you see that with like Jake Paul in the boxing, and you think people buy from people, and I know
Yeah,
I'm not a fan of Jake Paul,
me neither.
uh, but people buy from people. So imagine if you were this creator with this big following, and you put on your website buy with Prime. Yeah, I think that's the way the world is going. And that buy with Prime thing is so logical from Amazon's perspective because no one's going to rival that fulfillment network.
Right.
But
That's
yeah,
that's tops. Yeah, that's hard to beat. Yeah. Dan, I have one fun final question for our viewers out there that are watching. What is one thing that they can do as soon as this podcast is over, after they've watched the entire thing, after they've liked and subscribed? I have to always say that in there. After they've liked and subscribed, what is one thing they can do today to help improve their organic sales, even something small?
yeah. If you have helium-10, do a reverse ASIN search, look at your title, look at your highest volume, say top 10 organic ranking search term, and if they're not the same, change it to one of those ones. That's the first thing I would do because otherwise you can affect your conversion rate that way and you can affect your organic ranking that way. And that's the first thing I would do. And then I would follow the suite of all the listing optimization things we've spoken about, like match your main image to that. Can you use a promotion, etc.
Love it. Love it. Dan, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. I definitely achieved my goal of learning something about organic sales. So I really appreciate you coming on and being a guest and talking to me about, again, organic sales growth strategy.
Yeah, thank you, B. Thank you so much for having me on. You're a wonderful host,
Thank you.
and yeah, thanks. It's been wonderful. Yeah, it's been really easy to get here as well from the moment we first started talking. So,
Yeah.
cheers.
Cheers as well. Yes, I love that phrase. I don't know. I mentioned this maybe on another podcast, but I was actually in Dan's home country of England, and they are a little more friendly over there than maybe some of the U.S. people that I have met with. So, and a lot better cider too. I think we talked about that last on our initial call. The cider over there is phenomenal. Brokered stuff. But yeah, speaking of Dan, I will have his LinkedIn down below, so make sure to give him a follow. And so many other links that Dan you would like for me to share in the description of our YouTube video. Make sure, again, make sure to like and subscribe, stay up to date with all things Amazon, all things Velocity sellers. Come learn with me when I talk to amazing people like Dan who know a lot about a lot of different topics. And thank you so much for watching, everybody out there. I'm Velocity Pete, and we will see you next week.